The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus took Peter, James, and John, and led them up on a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no fuller on earth could bleach them. Then Elijah appeared to them along with Moses, and they were conversing with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus in reply, "Rabbi, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He hardly knew what to say, they were so terrified. Then a cloud came, casting a shadow over them. From the cloud came a voice, "This is my beloved Son, listen to him." Suddenly, looking around, they no longer saw anyone but Jesus alone with them. As they were coming down from the mountain, he charged them not to relate what they had seen to anyone, except when the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what rising from the dead meant. The Gospel of the Lord. In the restaurant business, as I understand it, from television and conversations, which are, of course, all I can really know about it, the name of the game is consistency. And there's 2 ways to obtain this consistency. One is to, Pizza Hut has frozen dough and an endless supply of, a very reliable supply chain, so they have a consistent product all the time. It's always the same. You can get a pepperoni pizza anytime you want by calling them on the phone or going to the store, and they'll bring it out unfrozen and cooked to perfection for you, ready to serve. The other style, and this is much more challenging, and this is the reason why we have things such as Michelin ratings, is for a chef to simply pull out something from the back, and the menu will change. They'll have a soup du jour, and in the very highest levels of the restaurant business, they actually basically just change it just for the sake of changing it, right? And so you might have a chef who just decides, today we're going to serve snails and sea cucumber on a bed of rice, and you're going to love it, right? And this is, I guess, kind of how I feel today, that I wish I had something else to preach on. But all I have for you today is sea cucumber and snails. I'm just going to talk about COVID policy. So, COVID policy here at Strict Jesuit, something that's underappreciated perhaps by many, but for me, in my position, something that I know well and think about all the time. And one of the most underappreciated aspects of the COVID policy here at Strict Jesuit is that when students are sitting outside in an outdoor classroom, 6 feet apart, stationary, seated, sitting down, they can remove their masks. And this might seem like no big deal. What difference does it make? They're outside, doesn't really change much. But for me, in my perspective, it makes all the difference in the world, because these faces, I've gotten very good at seeing just the eyes and seeing when someone smiled based on the wrinkles by their eyes. But when they can take their mask off, you get a different perspective. You get so much more. And so I just returned from Kairos yesterday afternoon, and we put this same policy into place on Kairos. And so we had the opportunity to have 20 seniors go on Kairos, a year late, 12 months late now, after the beginning of the pandemic or the beginning of the restrictions following it. And as a result, these guys had been waiting a long time. Their faces have been covered for 12 months. And so we were able to sit in a circle, 5 students, 2 student leaders, 2 adults, with masks off, and talk about the very sweetest and most difficult and most tremendous aspects of human experience that these young men have had. And I found this to be an absolute revelation, right? That here within this COVID policy, now applied to a different context, but in the same way, with the same reasoning behind it, something truly magnificent was able to occur. And the things that they shared and the ability to see one another's face was absolutely breathtaking. This is something that I've been on, I think this was my 17th Kairos. This is something that I've always seen faces on Kairos. I've always sat in circles. I've always heard about difficult things and great things, and been able to share communion with these young men who found communion by not running away from things, but by drawing them out into the open and sharing them with one another and finding strength in that communion. They weren't lost. They never lost their individuality. They never said, my experience is the same as someone else's. They simply pointed to what they had experienced and shared it and saw the glory of God revealed in doing that. And this was tremendous for me, in particular because I could see the face of God revealed. That I think oftentimes in our experience, God wears a mask, right? And we see just little glimpses. We kind of intuit things by the wrinkles on the eyes of God that we see. But there's so much that we don't see. And this is precisely what we celebrate today during this Feast of the Resurrection on a Sunday during Lent, when we hear the gospel proclaim to us that Jesus was transfigured before three of his closest friends. Three of his closest friends on earth went up a high mountain apart from all of the other people of the world in order to see his face revealed. And what did he show? He showed the glory of God. He showed the glory of God revealed in human suffering, the crucifixion and death. He showed the glory of God is not opposed to these things. They're not irreconcilable. But in fact, mysteriously, the darkest parts of our life, the most hidden parts of our life, the things that we're most afraid of, can also be the things that reveal the face of God. And this is mysterious, and I understand it's mysterious. But nonetheless, it's what God presents to us during this second Sunday of Lent, so that we can spend our Lent in this journey towards Easter, in this journey towards celebration, in this journey towards the end of the pandemic, whenever that comes. We can spend this being obedient. This is ultimately what we hear in the first reading of Abraham, that the Lord blesses him, the Lord gives him descendants more numerous than the stars of the sky, because he is obedient. Because, at least maybe a little bit, because we follow the COVID policy, right? Because we follow what God asks of us, we are able to be obedient, and within that obedience, we're able to see the glory of God revealed. This is something that is very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I have been waiting 12 months to understand. And now I feel like, you know what? I got a little glimpse of that this weekend. That obedience brings joy. Not in the midst of it, not when we're preparing, maybe not during Lent, but at the end, when it all is shown to be worthwhile, when the glory of God is shown to be revealed, then we can look back and say, even this sacrifice, right? Even to the point of being willing to sacrifice the life of your child, right? Even that kind of sacrifice, that sort of obedience, can give joy and can be a revelation of the glory of God. That's what we celebrate today. And so the opportunity here and now is for us to call upon the Lord, to praise him, to bow down in reverence before him, and to hear him say, "This is my beloved Son, listen to him. Be obedient to him. Embrace the Ten Commandments. Embrace the teachings of the church. Embrace whatever it is that seems to put you at a distance from where you imagine the resurrection and the glorious life to come will be. Perhaps here and now, the glory of God will be revealed, and you'll be able to see what this life will be like in the way that I think a group of 5 high school seniors sitting in a circle, not judging one another, not making cruel jokes, but simply accepting what is offered and cherishing it and sharing it. This is a little bit of what I think heaven is like. And heaven obviously will be more than I can imagine. But I think it's a little bit what I'm hoping to experience in the life to come. And this is also what's on offer to us when we find ourselves obedient, when we listen to the voice of the Lord, when we accept his commandments, and when we find ourselves conformed to his teaching, that our faces then become transformed as his was. We become the glory of God, the revelation of God to the people in this world that is suffering. That's our call. That's our vocation as Christians. That's the opportunity that this transfiguration presents to us. And so during this Mass, let's call upon God for strength, that we can recognize this, that we can live this truth, and so be the transfiguration that the world very much needs today.